Good morning. I'm Russ Hamill, Assistant Chief of Police, Chief of Investigations for Montgomery County's Police Department. I'm here on behalf of Chief Manger, who had a previous engagement. I'll just give you a brief synopsis for those of you that aren't up to date on the case. Our victim met our suspect at a bar in College Park, Looney's, about the evening of October 2nd of this year. Apparently during the evening, our victim became intoxicated and at one point went with the suspect to his residence in Gaithersburg, Maryland. The next day, the victim reported the crime to our patrol officers as they became concerned with what occurred to them the night before. Mr. Poindexter was identified as a suspect and arrested the evening of October 9th. Our normal course of investigation in these matters is to look into computers, look into cell phones, and we did in fact do that in this case. And we believe we found, we did find digital images of what we believe to be additional victims of Mr. Poindexter's activities. Our current investigation has identified 2 additional victims at this point and possibly a third. The victims have all stated they are heterosexual and have never had consensual sexual encounter with another man. By looking at the photos and talking to identified victims, they appear to all be in their late teens, early 20s, and I believe most of the assaults occurred while the victim is unconscious or significantly impaired from alcohol. Although, and I've received this question from a number of people about drug use, we have not ruled out the possibility of a drug being implemented in this case. Mr. Poindexter, our victim, attends organized beer pong events in the area and actually outside of the area, the Washington, D.C. area, and he met several of his victims during these events. He has recently traveled to New Jersey, Las Vegas, Dallas, Virginia Beach, and Salt Lake City, and we have notified authorities in those jurisdictions of our investigation and our findings, and they are looking into possible cases in their jurisdictions as well. These events that Mr. Poindexter attends are aimed at young individuals, the younger crowd. Extreme sporting events such as skateboarding and BMX competitions, I mentioned beer pong. So we believe most of our victims are going to fall into that age range as I discussed earlier. We believe Mr. Poindexter has been targeting young men for approximately 10 years. We have a case reported to us approximately 10 years ago where the investigation was halted at the request of the victim, I believe, and we have not had any further contacts or reports of our suspects since that time until this October. As I mentioned, we're working with a number of other law enforcement agencies, but the reason we're here today primarily is to ask your help, the public's help, but I really want to thank the media for your help with this as well, because we're trying to identify further victims. There are other victims out here. To say it took tremendous courage for this young man to step forward and tell us what happened and to explain the events of that evening is really, to put it lightly, it took a tremendous amount of courage for a young man to do this. It also took faith on his part in our police department and our investigators. Detective Marshall, Sergeant Segru from our Major Crimes Division done an outstanding job on this. But it took faith in us to handle this in a serious manner with caring and concern and professionalism, and we have done so. And I'm proud of our agency and our detectives for doing so in this case. I want to commend this young man for his courage. And I want to encourage other victims to please sum up that same courage that he has and come forward and stop this predator from preying on other individuals just like you were preyed upon. As I mentioned, I want to thank the media as well for getting this message out, and hopefully our phones will be ringing this afternoon with people that want to step forward. Thank you.
Can you go through a scenario of how this actually works? Does he meets these young men at bars, he gets them intoxicated? Can you just run through it? Does he take pictures? Does he document it?
Pat, we've had, the way you described it seems to be his normal course of conduct. They engage in the use of alcohol. As I mentioned, it appears our victims become highly intoxicated or possibly drugged. We are investigating that. And then he takes advantage of them from the digital images that we've downloaded. Again, young men in states of various states of intoxication. that have trouble defending themselves.
Does he rape these young men?
He has unconsensual forced sex with them, yes.
Would that be a rape?
Under the current definitions from the FBI, yes.
How many victims do you suppose there are? You've had a chance to look at his phone, his computer a little bit. How many pictures, I mean, are we talking, you've identified a couple more, so it's up to 3. Are there dozens? Are there hundreds?
The computer has not been finished yet, Brad. They're still working on it up in our crime section. They, the Sergeant's group, how many victims so far?
It's
Go ahead.
approximately 10.
Approximately 10 so far.
That you found?
That we found so far, but there's more work to do.
So what do you make of this? I mean, the time, the numbers, I mean, how
Yeah.
bad is this crime going to end up being?
First off, I'll answer, what do I make of this? In January, I've been a cop 30 years. I've never seen anything like this. Never even heard in our department anything like this, any reported cases like this. There may have been, but I have not heard of them. I think it's, the number's only going to grow larger, and I think probably a lot larger by the end of the day once we get the full images downloaded. And then it would be a matter of identifying victims and getting them to step forward and want to prosecute this matter.
You said that he frequented different spots. The 10 people that you know of, were they all from Looney's or were they from different spots throughout the area?
We don't know. As I said, we've identified Looney's, and apparently that's they have a beer pong tournament, a pretty frequent beer pong competition going on there.
How does that work?
Beer pong?
Yeah.
I think I'll leave that to my young detective to answer that. Well, I mean, I understand there's glasses full of beer set up, and they bounce a ping pong ball, 2 people in competition. And if I'm right, if I land a ball in your cup, you have to drink it?
Correct.
Okay.
Russ,
Thank you for saving me.
You know, go ahead. We're gonna get.
I'm a little confused about, because you initially said you had 2, possibly 3 victims, and then you said that you have 10. So,
Our images, we have
Images
10 different
that are
individuals we haven't
unidentified?
identified.
okay, so you have 10 images on his phone,
Yes.
computer, which,
On the phone,
on the phone. And these are 10 that you don't know who they are yet?
correct.
Okay. But you have 3 who have come forward that you have actually interviewed?
No, 2 and then 1 more that we believe is going to come forward shortly.
Okay, so you have 2 for sure that you've interviewed, that you believe he has sexually assaulted.
Yes.
And then now, this possibly 3rd. So would it be accurate to say you've got 11 then, that you're not sure who they are? Is that right?
The whole number adds up to 10 so far.
Can you run it down for us one more time? Just the numbers and how you.
Okay, we have the 1 young man that stepped forward. We have 2 others that have come forward as well. 1 possibly that's going to step forward. Then 6 other images on top of that we don't know.
Are these all college students or who are these?
We don't know that yet. We do know the 1 was a college student.
The ones that we're talking about?
And the one that we're talking about, was this at the beer pong tournament at Looney's on this particular occasion?
Was that a tournament? Yeah, yes.
Yes.
So is the scene of the crime, the assault, always at this guy's house?
The cases we've confirmed, yes.
So of the 10 cases we're talking about, those 10 assaults occurred at his house?
No, some of those images were taken in other locations, so.
So of the 10, were most of the assaults at his house?
Of the victims that I know of, those occurred.
Where were the other assaults taken?
And that's still
You
unknown.
don't
So you got
know?
7 pictures, you don't know who any of these people are. You've got
Correct.
3 that
Can you
you've
come to the
identified,
mic?
total of 10.
If you're gonna talk, you gotta get you up on the mic.
I'm Detective Marshall. At this point, of the victims we've identified, those assaults did occur in Gaithersburg. The additional images that we've located, we have no idea who these young men are. That's why we're here today, asking them to come forward. And of those images, some are clearly in his residence, and others are at unknown locations. And I don't have any other information at this point, which is why we're here asking for your help.
Is the centerpiece of this case beer pong? Is that how he meets all these young men?
Of the identified victims, yes, sir.
Beer pong?
Has
He goes
been
to
a beer
Beer
pong.
pong tournament?
Yes, sir.
And then he meets these young men, they get intoxicated, he takes them away and sexually assaults them.
Yes, sir.
That's the way it works.
Yes, sir.
And of these pictures that you have, are these people conscious or unconscious?
I would say various states of consciousness.
Various states of unconsciousness.
Now, what else can you tell us about him? What is the suspect? Does he work? What else does he do? What else can you tell us about him?
He works out of his home as a real estate appraiser.
Is the homeowner aware of any of this?
His statement to us was that he was not aware of what occurred. So, and Mr. Poindexter no longer resides at that residence.
Chief, you know, I'm trying to be careful and politically correct here, but if these were young women victims, I mean, this would probably be a huge national story. And I guess in this case, you don't see it any differently.
I don't see it any differently, and quick count on the cameras we appear to be in front of many, many cameras here. I imagine this will get picked up by other venues.
I mean, this is a horrific I mean, give me the.
It's a horrific sexual assault case, and the fact it's a male doesn't make it any less horrific. This is a sexual predator that's been loose, not only in our community, but by what we think from looking at this investigation, some of the communities that I mentioned before, which I think would make it a national concern to those agencies. And I think this young man and all the other victims are owed a complete and thorough police investigation that gets to the bottom of everything that occurred here, and that we can hold Mr. Poindexter accountable. And in my opinion, he should be held accountable for an extended period of time for what he's done to these young men.
And I want to go back to this, were you able to conduct a blood test? And I don't know how detailed you want to, after the victim came forward, wouldn't you be able to detect roofies or something like that, and do you have any results?
We don't, we're not going to go into that at this stage.
Could you give us some idea, how does it work like the next morning? I mean, I presume that he assaults these young men, they probably pass out.
Well, I can tell you what occurred here. This young man the next morning realized something untoward occurred. He spoke to, as I understand it, to a number of friends, and then summons up the courage to walk into one of our district stations and report what happened to him. That kicked off the investigation by our homicide section, and you could tell in a very short period of time, we had arrest warrants in hand. We need to do a good amount of investigation in this case, which I'm really not going to go into everything we did, but it was a thorough investigation. It was a textbook investigation. It was a very good job done by these detectives using many, many resources we have available on our police department, and it resulted in him being brought into custody.
I get you, but the next morning, let's presume that the guy passes out, he wakes up the next morning, is he at Poindexter's house? Or does he come in his own car? I mean, what does he say? What happens there? Does he just go home? I'm trying to figure out how it came to an end.
In these cases, the suspect then drives the victims back to wherever they came from.
Oh, so he drives them away?
Correct.
Back to the bar, or back to their home, or wherever they're
Yes,
going to go? And did they say, what did you do to me last night, or?
We won't go into all that right now. Yes, conversations were had.
So
But he
he drove to
actually
the
takes
bar
them
or
back.
his house?
He drove them back home.
How many photos did he take of each of the victims? Is it just one? Did he take multiple, or are they all the same kind of photos?
Also, are they all male?
First off, yes, the victims were all male, and yes, we have numerous photos of victims.
These cities that you mentioned in New Jersey, or state New Jersey, and then Vegas and so forth, did he live in these other places, or did he just go beer ponging or to the actual activities?
He went to activities in those locations.
Do you have a time frame on the photos? Are you able to extricate the data to show the victims you haven't identified? What period of time these photos were taken?
Some of these photos, yes, and some do not have accurate date information on them.
So what can you tell us about the
We're not prepared to go into any of that right now, just if people believe they're victims to come forward and contact us.
Did all the cases around here happen at Looney's, or were there various bars around here besides?
Various bars in the Metro DC and Baltimore area where beer pong events were held.
The three people that you know, okay? The three people you know, were they all out of Looney?
No, they were not.
So one was Looney.
Correct.
And where were the other two?
I believe those were both out of Quincy's bar here in Gaithersburg.
Quincy's bar. Another big beer pong,
Yes, it was a beer pong event.
pretty popular.
Russ, did you say 10 years you believe this man's been doing this?
We have our first report from a victim 10 years ago. But again, as I said, nothing else has come up in the interim. So that would be an estimate on our part.
And when was he
And all
arrested?
of these guys heterosexual, all,
As as reported to us, yes.
And
all
when was
right.
he arrested?
I'm sorry?
When was he arrested?
It was October 9th during the,
And he's still being held?
yes, sir. He was released at one point, and then they did a bond revocation hearing, and he's being held on bond at this time. All right, if I could just say one more thing. Thank you for taking the time to come on out here today and let us put this out to our citizens that we've sworn to protect and serve. And if this has happened to you, please contact us immediately. We'll guard your privacy as best we can, but we're here to help you. Trust in us, please. We will help you through this. Thank you.